Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I am back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you're taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Okay, so let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Hi, Nick. I was wondering if it's possible to turn fat into muscle. And is it true that if someone stops working out, their muscle will turn into fat? Okay, so no. You can't turn fat into muscle, and your muscle does not turn into fat. What typically happens when someone, let's go with the first question. What happens when someone starts weight training, right? Let's say someone goes to the gym and they're overweight to begin with. Well, if they're changing their lifestyle, so they're going to start doing some resistance training. They're going to start doing some cardiovascular training. They're going to maybe clean up their diet a little bit. Things are going to change in their body, right? They're going to start to slowly transform their physique. So what happens when you're doing weight training, for example, is yes, you're going to build muscle because you're providing resistance to your muscles, right? And because in addition to weightlifting, you're exercising, you're getting your heart rate up, you're going to be losing body fat. So what happens is your body has the ability to now lose the body fat and build the muscle. But the fat doesn't transition into muscle. The same thing happens when someone's, say, working out for years on end. Let's say someone's working out for 10 years and all of a sudden they just stop. Well, what tends to happen with these people is, yes, they will lose muscle because their body no longer has a reason to keep that muscle, right? It's no longer being asked to lift 300 pounds in the squat rack, or it's no longer being asked to bench press 185 pounds. So there's no reason to maintain that muscle mass anymore. So your body just starts to slowly lose that muscle mass. But the muscle does not turn into fat. What typically happens when you see people who maybe they gain fat after they stop working out, it's because their lifestyle changes. Typically, most people who are not going to the gym on a regular basis, a lot of times they're just sedentary. They go to work, they go home. They go to work, they go home. They might go to a restaurant, they go home. So they're not really exercising. So therefore, they're taking in more calories than they're burning, and therefore they're going to put on more body fat. So it's not that the muscle is transitioning into fat. It's just that the lifestyle's changed, right? The dietary habits have changed, right? Your overall physical exertion has changed. So therefore, you're putting on body fat. But I promise you, muscle does not turn into fat if you stop working out, and fat does not turn into muscle if you start working out, okay? What you have to do is you have to change everything around. You have to do your cardiovascular training, you have to do your weight training, clean up your diet. You're going to build muscle, lose fat. If you stop doing all that, you're going to lose muscle and you're going to put on fat, okay? Simple as that. But no, I promise you, fat does not turn into muscle. Muscle does not turn into fat. No. All right, next question. Nick, would you recommend stretching before or after a workout? Also, how long should I be stretching for? Okay, so when it comes to stretching, I usually advise my clients to stretch after a workout. But here's the thing. You can stretch before a workout as long as you're doing what we call dynamic stretching. And dynamic stretching is stretching that involves movement. So for example, if I'm doing, let's say I want to warm up my rotator cuffs, right? I would rotate them backwards, right? I could retract them. I could pronate them forwards, right? I could do lateral raises with more external and internal rotations, right? If I want to get my elbows warmed up, I can move them around. That's what we call dynamic stretching. And that's great to do before a workout because it gets your blood flowing, it warms up the muscles, and it releases synovial fluid. And for those of you that don't know, synovial fluid is like a lubrication for your joints, right? So I'm fine with that. Sometimes I have people that come in early for a session or for a group class, they spend 5-10 minutes doing dynamic stretching, right? But when it comes to static stretching, and static stretching is stretches where we typically would be holding a stretch, right? So let's say I'm trying to stretch out my tricep, I'll do a tricep stretch like this, hold it for about 30 to 45 seconds. That's a static stretch. So there's no movement. Those stretches we usually advise clients to do post-workout. The reason why is when you're stretching a muscle in a static stretch, you're taking it into a state of relaxation. The last thing you want to do is take a muscle into a state of relaxation and then stimulate it throughout a workout, right? You want the muscles to be warmed up. You don't want them to be relaxed. So that's why you want to save static stretching for post-workout. And if you are going to stretch, you can do some dynamic stretching pre-workout. As far as how long you should hold a stretch, honestly, my recommendation is anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds. If you hold it longer, you risk actually hypermobility, right? And you can take a muscle into too long of a stretch and put too much pressure on it, and you could elongate the tendon, or you could put too much stress on the tendon. And then when you go to do your workout the next time, you could pull something, strain something, or tear something. So generally, I tell people, try to hold each stretch for a good 30, 45 seconds. You can do rotations of stretches too. I mean, you could stretch out your shoulders, your chest, your biceps, your quads, and then go back and do 2 or 3 more rounds of those same stretches, but 30 to 45 seconds. Okay, so I wouldn't hold a stretch longer than that. I know there's some yoga poses that people hold for 90 seconds to 2 minutes. But when it comes to the muscle bellies, which are required for weightlifting, 30 to 45 seconds max. And as I said, you can do them in little increments. You can go back and forth into rotations. That's fine, but try to hold each stretch for about 30, 45 seconds. So dynamic stretching pre-workout, that's stretching with movement. Static stretching post-workout, that's stretching with no movement. All right. Next question. Hi, Nick. How often should I be changing my workouts? I feel like the routine I'm following works well, but have read it's important to constantly switch up your workouts to continue to get results. Don't change up your workouts if you're getting results, right? I think it's funny that people are constantly trying to change things up. And you see trainers doing this. They're always trying to mix things up. And I've seen this in the past with a lot of trainers that I worked alongside. What they do is every workout is a new workout. And I'm like, well, what about what you just did the last workout? Let that sink in. Let those exercises sink in. Reiterate what you taught. Make sure that the person knows how to do the exercises properly. I'm not saying follow the same workout every time you go to the gym, but if you're following, let's say, a 5-day training split where you're doing chest one day, back one day, shoulders one day, arms one day, legs one day, do all 5 of those workouts. And then the week after, follow the exact same training split again with those same workouts. And then slowly start to incorporate different exercises if needed. If you notice you're following the same program for, let's say, 3 months in, and you're getting great results with your shoulders, but your biceps are lacking size, change up your arm routine. Maybe switch up with 2 or 3 bicep exercises, but don't change something if it's working. And this is where you have to really pay attention to your body and use the mirror. There's times in the past where I've been doing my workouts and I'm like, I don't really see any changes in my physique here. So I'm going to change something, but I'm not going to do a complete 180. I might take bits and pieces. Maybe on my leg day, instead of doing leg press, I might do front squats, right? Maybe on my chest day, instead of doing an incline barbell press, I might do an incline dumbbell press for a few weeks. So that variation will help, but don't just change things for the sake of changing things. It's the same thing I do with people's diet plans on my online coaching app. If someone's on a weight loss program and they're consistently losing 2 or 3 pounds a week with me, I don't make any changes. It's like, it's working. So why would we make any changes? The only way I would make changes is if for some reason their energy levels were dropping with that weight gain. Then I would say, okay, well, we need to add more calories in. But if everything's going well, we leave it alone. So don't make changes for the sake of making changes, okay? But this is, again, where you have to pay attention to your body, use the mirror, use the scale, and say, hey, how am I feeling? How am I looking? These are all guidelines. If you're constantly second guessing yourself, then it's a good idea to hire a personal trainer or online coach that can give you feedback and say, I'm not seeing any changes in your physique in the last 5-6 weeks. We're going to make some changes on this muscle group. We're going to make changes on this diet. So that's where it helps sometimes to have a second set of eyes, because sometimes we're our own worst critics, right? We don't see the changes that need to be made. Or we just second guess ourselves and we make too many changes when no changes need to be made at all. So like I said, don't make changes for the sake of making changes. If everything's working well, like you said, your program's working well right now, continue to follow it. Once you hit a plateau, then it's time to make those changes. And sometimes hitting a plateau might be something as you've been stuck on the same weight for the last 3 months. If you're squatting, let's say 315, and you want to squat 425, but you just can't get past that 315, take a few weeks from squatting, or put your squats at the end of the workout. Right. So when you're at you're tired, you're fatigued, you're drained, and now do the squats at the end of the workout. I'm just throwing squats as an example here. Right. And you do that for a few weeks. And at first you might have to lift a little bit lighter, but then eventually what you'll find is you're able to lift heavier and heavier. Then when you put squats in at the beginning of your workout program again, whoa, your strength has gone up because you have more energy and more strength. So that's another way to go surpass a plateau. Okay. So like I said, don't just change things for the sake of changing things. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. If something's working, stick with it. Once it stops working, that's when you make the changes. All right. Nick, I just had my blood work done and my testosterone levels are very high. My doctor wants me to come off TRT immediately. I feel fine though. Should I listen to my doctor or continue along with my TRT dosages? I have a similar issue. I'm not on TRT. but I have a high testosterone level due to the fact that I work out on a regular basis, right? Pretty common. So what happens with guys who work out regularly is their testosterone levels are usually quite higher than the average person. Now, someone on TRT, same thing. Your testosterone levels, depending on what your TRT dosages are, can sometimes go a little bit elevated more than what the recommended screening is for testosterone on the blood panel. And it is different from Canada to US, right? So here's the thing, is one of the reasons why your doctor might be concerned with an increased level in testosterone is it can lead to things like an enlarged prostate, right? It can lead to blood clotting, right? There's some people that will say it can lead to aggression, oily skin, acne, and yeah, I guess of elevated testosterone levels, those could be problematic, but nothing that I've ever seen on anyone who's on TRT. So I've never seen that. But again, I'd like to reiterate that if you are someone who works out regularly and you are on TRT, what's going to happen is your testosterone will be slightly elevated. I personally don't think the recommended amount of testosterone that the average man should have, which I believe is anywhere from 8 to 28, okay, in Canada is accurate. I think it should be higher. That's my personal opinion. So I wouldn't say don't listen to your doctor. I would say, though, review your blood work and say, okay, what could we do here? Maybe I can lower my TRT dosages. Because if you just come off TRT, within 3 or 4 weeks, you're going to start to feel like shit, right? Everything's going to crash. Your energy is going to crash. Your strength in the gym is going to crash. Your libido is going to crash. So you don't just want to come off TRT. You might want to lower the dosages, as I said, and do that for another 6 months and then go back and get more blood work done and see how you are, right? But if your blood pressure is fine and you feel good, I see no reason as to why you have to come off TRT. Another thing you could do is go donate blood. That's another great thing to do. If your testosterone level is high and your red blood cell count is high and your hemoglobin levels are high, go donate blood, right? So you didn't mention what your red blood cell count was at or your hemoglobin levels, so I don't know, but I'm assuming they're quite elevated if your testosterone levels are high. So it's not that I wouldn't listen to your doctor, but you have to remember your doctor is a GP. He or she is not a hormone replacement expert. Okay, they're not a specialist. So if you really want to get the blood work done and work with a specialist, then you have to go to a hormone replacement clinic, right? But just coming off is not good advice. I wouldn't recommend anyone do that. So like I said, I'm not saying don't listen to your doctor, but at the same time, I would sit down and review some options with your doctor and say, hey, what do you think about maybe lowering my dosage of TRT for the next 6 months? And then we review my blood work again. Okay. You have to watch too. One thing with high testosterone levels is you have to watch your LDL, your bad cholesterol. So you don't want that to be too high. And if that is too high, you're going to have to go on a drug like Lipitor or something to help lower the cholesterol levels, right? So it's something to be aware of. It's good that you're getting your blood work done. I wouldn't freak out too much about it, but it's good that you at least know. And now that you know, you can be proactive and do something about it. But coming off it completely is not what I'd recommend. Okay. Next question. Hey, Nick, which is better for losing weight, diet or exercise? You know what I'm going to say here. Both. Both are equally important. You really can't have one without the other. I mean, there are people who go to the gym on a regular basis and they follow a shitty diet. They do get results. I've seen it. They get results, but the results are not great. They're decent. I'd give them a C, right? And then there's people who don't go to the gym at all, but they follow a fairly clean diet. And again, their results, decent. I'd give them a C. But when you combine the diet and the exercise together, your results, I'm not just talking aesthetically, I'm not just talking about your physique, I'm talking about mentally, internally, and externally, how you feel overall, your energy levels, I'd give it an A, right? As long as those two components are in check. So the two really go hand in hand. Like the reason I say you can't really have one without the other is because, yeah, I guess you can for satisfactory results, but if you really want to lose body fat and build muscle, build an optimal physique, have lots of energy, you have to have both. You can't just have one and not the other. So if your goal is to lose weight, clean up your diet and go to the gym. Okay. If your goal is to build muscle, clean up your diet and go to the gym. If your goal is just to improve your overall health and wellness, clean up your diet, go to the gym. Both of them. Okay. I'll never recommend that one is to do one over the other, and I'll never say that one is better than the other. You need both. They're 50-50. All right. Hi Nick, I've been training with you for 8 months, and all of my dress shirts are too baggy in the waist and tight around my chest and shoulder area. My pant size has gone from a 38 to a 33. I feel great when I check the scale, I feel great, but when I check the scale, I'm only down 6 pounds since I began working with you. Looks like I've lost more though. What's going on with my body? Uh, that is the perfect combination that you want. So what's happening is that your body composition is changing. You're losing fat and you're building muscle at the same time, which, despite what a lot of so-called experts and trainers and coaches say, can be done at the same time. I've seen this done. I've done it myself. I've done it with numerous clients over the last 20 years. You can lose fat and you can build muscle at the same time. You don't need to be in a crazy caloric surplus to build muscle, nor do you have to be in a crazy caloric deficit to lose body fat. You just have to make sure that you're following a customized training program that is designed specifically for you, your goals, your lifestyle, your genetics, along with a good customized nutritional plan that complements that training program. Okay. So what's happening in your case is that your body fat is going down, but your muscle mass is going up. So your weight on the scale is pretty much going to stay the same, right? You're losing fat, but you're building muscle. So your weight is going to just pretty much hover around the same as before. And like I said, I've seen this done many times with clients over the years. I've done it myself when I used to compete in bodybuilding shows. And it's a great combination, because that's why I tell people, use the scale just as a guide, just so we see what's going on. But very rarely do I make changes based on the scale alone. I always just tell people when they send me their check-ins, just give me your weight. I just want to see what it's at this week, see how much it fluctuated. And sometimes I'm just doing that to see how they're responding to the increase in carbohydrates or the decrease in fats or the increase in protein. It has nothing to do with how much fat they're losing or how much muscle they're building, right? I just like to see what the weight is at, okay? But I don't really factor in the weight on the scale into making my tweaks and my changes and my revisions to each weekly check-in I do. So that's what's happening. Your body composition is changing. You're losing fat, you're putting on muscle. Like I said, your shirts are baggy in the waist, but tight in the chest and the shoulders. That, to me as a guy, that's fantastic. I had that same problem. You just have to buy fitted shirts, but it's a good problem to have. It's not a bad problem to have. So keep doing what you're doing and don't worry too much about the scale. But as I said, I always recommend that everyone weigh themselves at least once a week, unless the scale really throws you off mentally. But I think it's a good idea just to have an idea what's going on with your body. But don't rely on the scale only. That's one of numerous factors that you should take into consideration when you're looking at your overall progress. Okay. Hi, Nick. What is the proper way to breathe when weightlifting? I find that I tend to hold my breath on the wrong parts of certain exercises, but don't know how to fix it. Good question. It's a question that a lot of people think is obvious, right? But the answer is obvious, but it's actually not. This is something that I have to constantly remind clients in-house when I'm training them on the floor about breathing, because people tend to forget, right? And there's different times when you're going to breathe on down phases versus up phases versus out phases versus in phases. And I always tell people to keep it simple, always breathe out on exertion, okay? So what I mean by that is, if you're doing a bench press, for example, what is exertion? Well, exertion is the hard phase of the movement. Going down on a bench press is not the hard phase of the movement. Pushing that bar back up is the hard phase of the movement. So in that case, you're going to breathe out on the up phase. If you're doing a seated row, though, for example, where you're pulling the weight in, the hard phase is now going to be the in phase, right? So you're going to breathe out on the in phase, right? So that's what I always tell clients. I'm like, if you're not sure when you should be breathing in versus when you should be breathing out, think, okay, what's the hard phase of the movement? And whatever the harder phase is, that's the phase you're going to breathe out. So on a squat, you're always going to squat. The hard phase on a squat, for example, on a barbell back squat would be up, right? Not down. Going down is easy, but going up is the hard part. So again, you're going to breathe in on the down phase and you're going to breathe out on the up phase. So you always want to breathe out on exertion. Another thing I really like to remind my clients is that when you are breathing, use your mouth, not your nose. You're going to take in more oxygen with your mouth versus your nose. You need oxygen for your muscle bellies to respond and contract. If you're not breathing properly, what's going to happen, your set's going to end very quickly. So as opposed to getting 12 reps, you might only get 7 or 8 reps because you're not breathing correctly, right? So it's very important to practice proper breathing technique. That's why this is a great question, because a lot of people think it's obvious, but it's not. And I see people in the gym, so many times I see this, where people are either holding their breath throughout a set or they're breathing on the wrong phase of the movement and they burn out quickly, right? So you want to make sure you're breathing out properly and your breathing techniques are done correctly. So again, I'll just say one more time, always breathe out on exertion. So sometimes exertion will be the up phase, like in a barbell curl, it's going to be the up phase, but sometimes it's going to be a down phase, like on a tricep cable press down. That's going to be when you're going to breathe out. So it's not always going to be up or down or in or out. It's going to change. The plane of motion will change based on where the exertion is, where the stress on the muscle belly is. But that's when you're going to breathe out. So breathe out on exertion, use your mouth, not your nose. And finally, I recommend following call a 1-2 tempo speed. So what I mean by that is if you're doing, let's say, the barbell curls, I always advise people if you're doing any exercise, just count in your head, 1-2 up, 1-2 down, right? Doing a bench press, 1-2 up, 1-2 down. So you're controlling the weight. And if you follow that quick 1-2 tempo speed in your head, I promise you, you're never going to burn out. You're never going to be using momentum. You're not going to have to worry about doing your reps too quickly or too slowly. That is the perfect tempo speed to follow for every exercise you do. And I promise you, if you just do that in the gym, you keep it simple, you'll get great results. Okay. So again, breathe out on exertion. Okay. Focus on using your mouth and follow that 1-2 tempo speed. And you'll find it's a lot easier to get through your sets, and you'll probably be able to lift more weights, and you'll probably be able to rest less in between sets because you're breathing properly. So you're recovering more quickly. But yeah, great question. Okay. Hey, Nick, I've suffered from chronic lower back pain for most of my life. I just started lifting weights this year, but the pain is still there. Are there any particular exercises that you recommend to do to help strengthen my lower back? I know most people will say deadlifts, but if you followed me for years, if you've read my blogs, if you watch the Q&A channels, if you see my Instagram posts, my Facebook posts, I'm not really a big advocate of deadlifts. So I'm not going to tell you to do deadlifts. What I will tell you, though, is along from training your back at least once a week, doing a good back workout program with seated rows, lat pull downs, pullovers, one-arm dumbbell rows, closed grip pull downs, all the essentials for a back workout program, which I assume you're following if you're following a workout split. You want to make sure that you're training your abdominals at least once to twice a week. Okay. And the reason I say it is even though you're doing a lot of exercises that require core contraction, like barbell squats, for example, you're using a lot of core. Bench press, you're using a lot of core. Okay. So you are using your core throughout the week when you're doing exercises in the gym, but you're not doing anything directly for the core. So that's why I like to include exercises like hanging leg raises, right? Reverse crunches, ball crunches using a towel if you have a partner to help you with assisted crunches on the Swiss ball, right? Bicycles, those work great. Lying leg raises. And typically what I recommend is people try to do their abs at least once to twice a week. And that what that will do, it'll help strengthen both your transverse abdominals, your rectus abdominals, and your intercostals and obliques. In turn, what that will do is it'll help strengthen your spinal erectors. One thing is when people think of the core, they always think of the front. But you have to remember, the core is like an apple core. It goes all the way around. So if you're doing all that work to focus on strengthening the transverse abdominals, the rectus abdominals, the intercostals, and obliques, you're going to in turn strengthen your spinal erectors, which is the area that you're talking about when you talk about your lower back, which we call the lumbar region, right? So typically when I work with people who have chronic lower back pain, especially in like the L4, L5 region, I won't start them with a crazy ab circuit right away. I might only give them one ab exercise and give them 2 sets for the first 2 or 3 weeks. But slowly as they start to progress and get stronger, then I'll start adding in more exercises, more sets, more volume. What I won't add though is weight. I'll never add weight to any abdominal exercise ever. I think that's a terrible idea. I think that puts too much stress on the discs in the lower back. In addition, I think that's also going to make your abdominal muscles bulky because when you use too much resistance, what happens? The muscle grows. The last thing you want are your abdominals protruding from your stomach. I've said this before, you're going to look like a turtle. You're going to have this belly that sticks out, but it's not a belly. It's just that your abdominals are sticking out. So it's not a good look. So I wouldn't recommend using weights when you're doing ab training. The only resistance I'll do with clients is if we're doing Swiss ball crunches and they have a towel behind their head and they're holding one end of the towel and I'm holding the other end of the towel and they're pulling me. So it's a little bit of resistance, but it's not actual weights. That's the only time I'll use resistance with people. And those are usually with clients who are more advanced in their training and have stronger cores. But if I were you, if you want to fix your lower back, my recommendation would be doing abs once, even twice a week. Start off slow. Add just, like I said, 1 or 2 exercises and slowly start to add more. If you're not sure which exercises you should be adding in, download my coaching app. It's on the App Store, Forever Fit Performance. I've got loads of abdominal exercises. Just choose any one of them and go from there. I've also got a beginner workout program for abs versus an intermediate, and then I have an advanced workout as well, just for the abdominal program. So you can follow one of those. If you'd like to join my online coaching app, you can DM me on my Instagram, @Cosgrove_, or you can send me an email, nick@foreverfitperformance.com, and we'll get you started on a customized program as well. All right. Okay. Next question. Hi, Nick. Do you get your annual flu shot? I'm conflicted on whether or not I should get mine this year, as last year when I got it, I became super sick for a few days later, and it lasted for 2 weeks. I don't get the flu shot. The one year I got the flu shot, I think it was in 2007, and I got so sick. And I mean, knock on wood, I rarely get sick. But that one year I got the flu shot, I got so sick. And I know they change the flu shot every year, but because of that experience for me, I don't do it. Whenever I start to feel really run down, I just load up on the vitamin C. And I know, I've said this before, I know there's lots of doctors that will argue and say vitamin C doesn't do anything, but I'm a firm believer in vitamin C. I use it year round, but when I start to feel like I'm getting a little run down, if I'm getting a sore throat or sort of get a runny nose or I'm getting a headache, I just load up the vitamin C. I'll take it up to 5,000-6,000 milligrams in a day. I'll do that for 3 or 4 days. And honestly, I feel great. So that's what I do. I'm not recommending that's what you do. And I'm not telling anyone to not go out there and get the flu shot, because I know the flu shot works really well for a lot of people, especially those who are immunocompromised. So I'm not suggesting that you don't do it. It's kind of like the COVID vaccination shot. A lot of people were pro COVID vaccination shot. A lot of people were against it, right? And now that we're getting into more COVID shots now, I think they're just releasing the latest, the 5th and 6th, or the 4th and 5th. You get a lot of people who did the COVID shots who are not going to do them now because they got really sick or they felt it made them worse. So it's one of those things where I typically say you have to make your own decision on this and not just listen to one set of people. You need to focus on, what you're comfortable with doing, right? And that goes for not just the flu shot, but also the COVID vaccination shots. For myself personally, I mean, no, I don't do the flu shot. I don't feel I need it. Am I going to do an upgrade on the COVID shot? I don't know yet. I did my first 2 shots, and I feel fine. I remember when I got COVID earlier this year, I felt completely fine. The only reason I got tested was I was at a party and my friend, she tested positive for COVID. So she said, you should get tested. And sure enough, I had COVID, but our gym was actually forced to be closed for 2 weeks during that time anyway. So I didn't go in, but I felt totally fine. So it didn't really affect me. And I don't know if that was because I had my vaccination shot or just because I have a strong immune system, because I work out every day, I follow a clean diet. So there's something to be said about that as well. So to answer your question, no, I don't do the annual flu shot. I haven't done it since I think it was 2007 or 2008, around that time, for the pure reason that I got really sick when I did it. So I just follow the same protocol that I always do. If I start to feel a little run down, I up my vitamin C. Sometimes I'll even increase my vitamin D as well. And that typically works. I'll go sit in my sauna downstairs. That helps as well. And yeah, so I've never had a major problem since then. So I want to keep that streak going. So until I get really sick, I'm going to continue with no annual flu vaccination shot. Okay. Last question. Nick, how much would it cost to work with you at your gym 3 times a week? We have different training packages. You can find them on our website. We're fairly transparent with our pricing. All the packages, all the prices on all the training packages, not just private training packages, partner training packages, small group training packages, online training programs, everything is all listed on the website. And the reason I do that is because I want to be transparent with people. I want people to know what they're purchasing. I want them to know the rates before they come in for their consultation, or before they email me for a consultation, or before we do a Zoom talk and consultation. And that way there's no hidden costs. Everything is upfront. I've never liked that kind of tactic that a lot of trainers and gyms use is, oh, come in for a free consultation, and then we'll sit for half an hour and I'll make a sales pitch to you, and then I'll slide in the price. No, I mean, I feel like I'm at a stage in my career now that I don't have to do that. I feel like these are my rates. This is my proven track record for results and success with other clients. If you want to work with me, great, let's do it. Let's get started. If you don't, no problem. I'm not offended by that, but our rates are on our website. So if you want to work with me in a private setting, you can just go to our website, foreverfitperformance.com, and look at our private training packages. If you want to work in a small group setting, you can check out our rates there. All the rates include tax, so you don't have to figure out, okay, how much am I going to pay in GST? It's all there. So all you have to do is say, okay, I want to book a 16-session private training package. book it with Mia. We'll set up a schedule for you. You can work with me in person. I believe my roster is full for the month of November, but I think I have some openings in December with some people going away. So, and I do have my after hour sessions as well, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. But I'm typically on the floor in the daytime at my gym downtown from 7 a.m. to about 1 p.m. Okay, so you can catch me on the floor then, and that's Mondays through Saturdays. And Sundays, I'm trying to slowly transition to taking Sundays off. Don't know if that's going to happen yet, but I'm slowly trying to get off Sundays. So Monday to Saturdays, you can catch me at the gym from 7 to 1. My after hour sessions are from 3 to 6 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you want to set something up, email Mia at foreverfitperformance.com. Head over to our website, foreverfitperformance.com. Check out our rates. If you have any questions, you can also DM me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_, or you can also email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com. Anyway, guys, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Tuesday, October the 31st, Halloween. As a reminder, if you do have any questions with regards to your workouts, your diet, supplements you're taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com or DM them to me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting my business. And I will see you all next time. Bye for now.